Today in Hawkeye's House of Horrors, I'm going to continue on with the next Mad Max film in the series after The Road Warrior, and that is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Now, this film is not in my top five science fiction or fantasy, that genre of 1985, the year that this was released, but I still think this is a pretty good film. It certainly does take a couple steps down from the previous entry, but I'm going to share with you things I did like about the film and maybe a complaint or ideas I've come up with as to perhaps maybe why it's a different film. I do enjoy that it isn't another take at Road Warrior. This is a different story. Same character, Mad Max. Supposedly it's 15 years later, I believe, after Road Warrior, but I enjoy that it is its own film, and I enjoy that rather than try and retread an old film that did well at the box office. But here we go. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. This film was directed by two Georges. That's George Miller and George Ogilvie. Now, George Miller had done the original Mad Max as well as Mad Max 2, and he's done Fury Road and the new Furiosa Mad Max film, which I have yet to see. I'm planning on seeing this weekend, though. Um, now, what or why there was two directors is on the Road Warrior. I did state that Byron Kennedy had passed away. He died in a helicopter crash. I believe it was in 1983. He was only 33 years old. He was a partner with Miller in making films. He was a producer of the original two films of the series. So this would have been devastating for George Miller. Now he was wanting to get back in the saddle again, if you will. And he had asked his buddy George Ogilvie to more or less help him, I guess, with this film. And from what I read, they were together in the director's chair throughout the shoot. So it's not like Miller did this and Ogilvie did that. They all did it together. Um, Now, this film was written by Terry Hayes, who had also written The Road Warrior, and George Miller as well. And it's based on characters by Miller and Byron Kennedy, who this film actually, at the end of the film, you see this film was actually dedicated to him as well. Now, this film was released on July the 10th, 1985. It had a budget of $10 million. So as you can see, each film there's more budget uh, to the next film. When you convert that into today's dollars, that's 2024. That's just over $29 million. So not really a huge budget, but it's, as I said, they're getting bigger. Now it made 36 million at the box office. That would be 104.9 million dollars today. So it did really well. It did over three times the budget made at the box office. So hey, these movies, they're definitely making money at the box office. Now, up to this point, this was the longest Mad Max film, as it ran. I believe it was 107 minutes long. You could also say in comparison to The Road Warrior, maybe this film has more story going on. Um, Really, the story progresses, keeps moving throughout the whole film. Now, one thing I did remember, and I looked at it again when looking up stuff about this film, it had a really cool 1980s poster, what with Mel Gibson and Tina Turner on the front of the poster with the children and the vehicles on the bottom. Pretty cool poster. Now I'm going to jump into the story and some of the actors as well. I'm going to try and get through it quickly, so it's going to be rather condensed as best I can. So the story here we have Max, played once again by Mel Gibson. It's a bit of a different, certainly a different look, as he now has like a black cape. He's got long hair. He actually has a monkey with him now instead of a dog. Um, but it's a different kind of take on Mad Max. Um, in the Road Warrior, he was hardened. He was a shell of a man. He still is, but it's almost like very much like the film itself. It's a softer take on it. Now, this film was rated PG-13. All the other Mad Max movies were restricted, and for very good reasons. What with violence, nudity, like very intense action scenes. But this one was PG-13. More about that, perhaps at the end of my video here. Now, Max, he's after Jedediah. That's played by Bruce Spence, who was in The Road Warrior. This same actor, different role. He's with his son. He's played by Adam Cockburn, and he's stolen his vehicle. So Max is after him, which leads to a place called Bartertown, and he meets Auntie, played by the Queen of Rock herself, Tina Turner. Now, I must say, um, I off the top of my head, I can't come up with other Tina Turner roles she did. I'm sure she did some other stuff, but she does a pretty good job in the role. And it's no surprise that some of these old rock acts, what with David Bowie, for example, or Roger Daltrey, that these guys could actually do a little bit of acting as well. It's not much of a surprise because they are entertainers. They're not camera shy. So she does a pretty good job in the role. Within this story, though, within the Road Warrior, gas was gold. In this one, it's water. Water is gold. It's very hard to come by. Um, but gas is still gold. But there, as we are introduced to Bartertown, they have their own way of, or a different way of creating energy for the town itself as well as vehicles. The secret ingredient is pig shit. So, anyways, Max works out a deal with Auntie that he's going to put down Master Blaster, which is actually like two different people put together. Um, and one, it kind of reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Krang and the bodysuit that he was in. I don't know if that thing had a name or not. I don't think so. Whatever, but it reminded me of that. Um, Here it's played by Angelo Rosito and Paul Larson. So Master is Rosito and Larson plays Blaster. Now Master is the smaller of the two. He's the brains, and Blaster is the muscle of the operation. So, anyways, Max works out a deal. He's going to fight and kill Blaster. Where? In the Thunderdome. Now, I must say, I really actually enjoyed the Thunderdome in this film. It's even part of the title. Um, but I really enjoyed a different take on one combat and how interesting it is. And it's to the death. There's no prisoners. There's very little rules involved with it. They come up with a saying: two men enter, one man leaves, and it's repeated over and over again to do with Thunderdome. I really enjoyed that. Um, but once we leave the Thunderdome, I find the film absolutely, it doesn't drag, but it takes a dip for about an hour before recovering again in the third act. Now, another example of seeing the gas is gold as well is within the fight in the Thunderdome. Max gets a chainsaw. It takes him a while to get it started, and when he does, the chainsaw is on for like 30 seconds, and well, it's run out of gas. That's all the gas they have. So it's um, it's another indicator that gas is still gold. Now, as part of the deal, Max is actually double crossed by Auntie, and we find out that she is actually the true villain of the film. And she's kind of a likable villain, I would say. which is unusual for Mad Max because they're not likable people at all by any stretch in any of the other Mad Max films that I've seen. They're not likable. They're very black. They're bad. But he seems to be likable, maybe because it's Tina Turner. But anyways, Max is then sent to the desert on horseback. He doesn't kill Blaster. He doesn't want to kill him, but Blaster is killed by Auntie's henchmen. So he's sent to the desert on horseback with his hands tied behind his back. But before he is taken by death, he is found by a bunch of children who are living alone. Um, and they get him, revive him. And this is the second act of the film. And this is where I would say, um, in watching this film, where I think my personal problem is too strong of a word, but the issue with the film is why it isn't as good as or even as comparable to any other of the Mad Max films. Now, I first saw this film when I was a kid. In my previous review, I said I'd seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome when I was a little kid, and I saw it once or twice. There was elements I liked about it, elements I found rather scary, even though this is a very toned down Mad Max film. I mean, I was like 6 or something, so give me a break, come on. But and then there was elements that I didn't like all that much. As I got older, I grew to like everything about the film. There wasn't really anything bad or anything that ruins the film for me. But um, in this, the second act, I find when you compare it to the Road Warrior or any other Mad Max film, Road Warrior set a bar um, in the Mad Max films, which was problematic or could be problematic for other films because it kind of has to follow the same suit or hit that bar um, or come very close in order to become comparable to what made that film so great. Now, in the second act of the film, it's not boring. It's very interesting, but what it isn't, it's not very exciting. And for me, that's what made Mad Max so great was the excitement you could have within the action, within yeah, the it's definitely like the top of the pinnacle for me is the chases. At the end of this film, there is a chase, but all of that excitement, there, the second act doesn't have that, and it really does bring the film down um, a couple of steps, in my opinion. Now, anyways, the children and Max, in the end, um, they then go to Bartertown. They save Master from Auntie, and then they take a truck, I think, down a train track line, wrecking the refinery and a lot of Bartertown. And then this is where the film or the best part of the film happens is like the last 10, 15 minutes of the film. You have some very good action. And I find the humor actually comes through the best in the third act as well. There's a lot more laugh out loud moments for me as a viewer. Now, in the second act as well, I wrote down you could call this part of the film Mad Max 3, The Road Warrior 2. But anyways, in the second act of the film, um, as I said, it was interesting as the children they come across these children, and it's certainly, as I read, influenced by Lord of the Flies. George Miller wanted to do like a Lord of the Flies in the Outland, which he absolutely does here. Um, but since they're all children, there is no adults there. Everything that they know or think they know is all misinterpreted on how things work or how things did work, and they're not told exactly how things are. So I find that really interesting as well. And as I said, Miller originally wanted to do like a Lord of the Flies film in the outback, and was going to do that, and then introduced Mad Max into that story. So it really wasn't really a Mad Max film when it was originally written or thought of, but Mad Max was then put in the film. And I can certainly see as a viewer the all three of the acts, like how they're separated and then put together. And I do see two films, like a Mad Max film and a Lord of the Flies film, meshed or smushed together like that into Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Now, the director of photography of this film is Dean Semler, who also did The Road Warrior. And I think he does a fantastic job in this film. I think it's very well shot, um, as well as with him and as well the directors. It's stylishly directed as well, and you can see that there is someone, if not both of them, have a strong ability in directing. And I know already knew going in that Miller does. So I really enjoy the use or overuse of the sun in some of the shots, as well as the sand coming across as beautiful, really, and works well blended in with the sun in some of the shots in the outback. It really works well. A really good visual film. Now, the music in the film is done by Maurice Jarre, and I believe he was hired by Warner Brothers to come in and do the score to the film. He was given, I think, more budget than Brian May had been given in the previous two films to work on the music. It's unfortunate May wasn't brought in to complete the trilogy, if you will, the original trilogy of Mad Max. But certainly some of the same uh, themes or ideas in the music are used here. Now, I find the music is good. It does its job. Unfortunately, though, I must say the music doesn't jump out at me or is as memorable, say, as Brian May's was in the previous film, The Road Warrior. I think that was a better score. Now, in this film, Tina Turner does two songs, one over the opening credits and one over the final credits of the film. They're One of the Living, which is a good tune, as well as We Don't Need Another Hero, which was number 3 in the British single charts, number 2 in the US, and number 1 in Australia and Canada. It was a big hit. I remember as a kid, uh, we didn't have MTV. If you don't know what MTV is, youngsters, look it up. But we had, because we're from Canada, we had Much Music, and I remember they played that video quite often. My sister would play it all the time when she was doing studying or working on schoolwork at home. Much Music would be playing, so I remember this song playing quite often back in the day, and I really like that song. It's a good Tina Turner, mid '80s Tina Turner song, and I definitely think if Tina could sing the ingredients off a box of Rice Krispies, I would be moved. She's a great singer. She's one of the greatest female singers of all time. She may not be at the top of my list, but she's up there. She's one of the finest, and a great singer. So they really. Um, it's kind of strange in a Mad Max film that you're gonna have songs like this. It also was the mid '80s, so maybe it makes sense, but they really got the right singer for this role. She's a fantastic singer, and I'm beyond shocked she was not put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame earlier than she was. She wasn't put in until like 2021, when in my mind, like she should have been in there like 25 years before that. I don't know. Um, it, I don't understand it. I don't know. Whatever. She's in there. She belongs there totally. But sadly, she passed away in just last year, 2023, I believe, in May. Now,
So
complaints some people have about the film as well is this film feels rather Hollywoodish, or I would say it's the most polished of the Mad Max films. Um, as I said, it's rated PG, so the intensity is rather dulled in this film. There's a lot less deaths. Where say in the Road Warrior, there was a lot of people dying, as well as Fury Road. A lot of people dying. Those are restricted movies. I'm not saying nobody does die. There are deaths in this film, but it's rather dull. And I'm not sure if that was brought forth by the studios saying, "Hey, we want a PG-13 Mad Max," or if this was Miller's way of dealing with the death of his friend, young friend, and Byron Kennedy, and how he was dealing with that is to go the opposite, I would say, like Roman Polanski did with at least one of the films after his wife Sharon Tate was murdered, um, or even Steven Spielberg and uh, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He was dealing with a horrible split up at the time, and you got yourself an extremely dark take on Indiana Jones, which I gotta say, man, I love that film. But perhaps one or the other, or maybe it was something else. But, anyways, I really do enjoy this film. This is, I would definitely say, the weakest of the Mad Max films, but it's one I'm gonna, you know, pop in every now and again. The other ones definitely would be ones I would put in before this one, but this one I would just every now and again, just I'm gonna enjoy it. Um, enjoy the watch. But anyways, that was fun. So next up, I'm gonna do is Fury Road, and I can't wait to watch that one again. It's gonna boom put me back up to that amazing level that George Miller had done. Now, anyways, that's a good one. So have yourself an excellent day.